Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about my disciplinary literacy project. For this project, I interviewed Mrs. Kathleen O'Connell, who is a Special Olympics district coordinator. As a future PE teacher, I thought it would be beneficial to interview this nice lady because Special Olympics, I know I'm going to have students with disabilities and special needs in my classes, and I think I would really like to try to get those kids active and involved. And Special Olympics is a great way. It's a great organization that gets those kids out in the community, gets them active, and it's just really rewarding for those students. And Project Unify is also an offset of that, and I just think it's a really great program, and I was really excited to interview her. One of the questions I asked her was, are there specific cultural components attached to the literacies within this discipline? And she told me, yeah, she said, some students don't understand English. So they have English language learners in her program. For that, they use translators, so if they can get them. And if they don't have translators, often they try to use symbols and pictures. So they'll have cards of like commonly used words, or say they're going to be working with a certain type of equipment today, that they'll have that stuff out so they can point to it and the student will understand. They also use demonstrations a lot. So with these demonstrations, it's easier for a student to, some students are actually visual learners. So being able to demonstrate shows the student how to do it, and also by physically like putting them through the paces. Like this guy is actually like manipulating this girl's hands to set. Kathleen has to do that often with her students because, especially since they have disabilities, they don't understand as well as students that don't. So by physically working with them, that helps cement their learning. Are there literacy skills that entry-level members of this field have to learn anew? O'Connell said yes, every student is different and may learn and understand in different ways. Speech language therapists are a big part that she says that you need to talk to if you're new, because these speech language therapists actually would work with the students that you're working with in schools. So these people are going to know, especially since you have nonverbal kids, by talking to this speech language therapist, you're going to be able to find out ways to communicate information best to your student, because everyone learns and understands differently. So by talking to the therapist, they're going to help you with that. Also, even though some of these kids are nonverbal, they have mannerisms about them that you can kind of understand what they want. So if you talk to the therapist, they can also give you some of those. My personal experience is we have to take an adapted physical education class, and I took it last semester personally, and I worked with a young man who was in 7th grade last year over at Normal West, and we swam in the pool. The young guy that I worked with was nonverbal, so he did not speak at all, but once I got to know him and worked with him, I could kind of tell what he wanted or what he was feeling at different times. So it was kind of like a nonverbal communication, or like some people would think of it as like an example. A good example would be like a teacher glare. So if you have a student that's misbehaving in your class, sometimes you throw out your teacher glare, and once that student sees that glare, they know that they've been caught, that they're misbehaving, and they stop. So it's kind of like nonverbal talking. She said it's also important that as a new person, you want to use a multidisciplinary team. So Kathleen talked about how that she actually goes into schools and works with the special education teachers, the adapted PE teachers, physical education teachers, and all these people together kind of work together to come up with a plan. And they try to use the same disciplinary techniques, like they try to keep everything the same, because since it's Special Olympics and you're working with kids with disabilities, everything is about routines. routines are very important to these kids, and they want them to have a set routine because that just makes it easier for them to learn, and they get in a set pattern, and it's easier for them to get through their everyday life. How is literacy conceptualized within your discipline? She said, it's getting the child to understand what we are asking of them to do, whether it be reading or performing a skill or activity. So, basically, like I said earlier, it's her idea of literacy is just trying to get the student to understand. So, since we're working with students with special needs, she was talking about how it's not just about reading. So, she said it's about getting them to understand, okay, well, I'm going to toss the ball. So in order to toss the ball, I can't just hold on to it the whole time. I need to let go of it. Or I need to hold the ball this way. So like in this picture, I'm assuming is a teacher, is helping this young man here try to roll, I'm assuming, because he's using one hand. So it's just trying to get him to the point to where he's going to understand what he's going to do. And a lot of that is demonstrations. Are there certain skills that are necessary to be literate in your discipline that may differ from traditional definitions of literacy? Kathleen said, yes, we work with our students with special needs, so their needs and goals are very different from the traditional children that you may teach or coach in schools today. In my opinion, traditional literacy is being able to read and write for our students, and that's not often possible in the traditional ways. So she's talking about using visual aids and stuff and when she works with her students. And since she goes in sometimes and works in schools to try to get schools to go for Special Olympics, she sees these visual aids a lot. Visual aids are visual supports and icons. These are used to help students expressively and conceptually understand, and they're also communication tools. So another thing from personal experience is over the summer I worked with a elementary special needs class, and there was a student in this class that was nonverbal, but he had an iPad, and his iPad literally looked like this picture on the screen. And whenever he learned all these symbols because he's really not able to read, but once he learned the symbols, he'll actually poke whatever he wants on the thing. So he'll start with I, so he'll press I want, and then there's like other sub layers, and like he could put some, or he could go to a thing and press a certain toy, and he liked to play basketball all the time, so he would often say, I want to play basketball. It was really cool because even though he's not able to physically speak, this thing speaks for him and lets him get his point across of what he wants. How can schools improve their efforts to equip students with the essential literacies of this field? She said that schools really need to talk about sensitivity because some schools students actually don't really understand their special needs students, and some of the classes are locked away in one room. They're all self-inclusion, so they don't really see them that often. So they need to talk about sensitivity and how these students are different and how they may react differently, but we're all the same together. The Respect campaign she talked about, she's really big into this. She goes into schools and helps set this up. It's actually a campaign that works with students that promotes sensitivity with teachers and everything else. She said, for example, she works at Parkside Elementary, and they do a whole spring unit on respect, and it's school-wide. She said it's awesome. Project Unify, she's also really big in. It's when teams are put together, like this is a Project Unify soccer team over here on the right, and it's when there's teams of students with special needs and actual regular students that do not have special needs, and they're mixed together and they play together on teams, which I think is really cool because you get a mix. Like the students with special needs are actually included with people regular their age, and likewise they're just all thrown together, and that's good because often they don't get those peer relationships that they would if they were not playing these unified sports. So all in all, I think I learned a lot from Kathleen. I really enjoyed talking to her, and I think I got some really great ideas about what I'm going to do with my PE classes in regards to Special Olympics and using the Respect campaign and Project Unify. And I really liked this project. Thanks.